Welcome back to another issue of Stand on Guard, another episode of Stand on Guard. When I come back in mere moments, I want to describe a very bizarre encounter in question period today.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
Thanks for joining me at this hour, 6 o'clock. I know Redacted wasn't on today, right? Yes, they're taking Memorial Day off, and I didn't have a live QP today. As I told you yesterday, if you watched my broadcast about the A word and what Justin Trudeau was up to, my sister-in-law and nephew were in town today, so we took them to question period. What else do you do in Ottawa? You take them to museums, you take them to the House of Commons. So some things they can't necessarily see anywhere else. Certainly can't see the House of Commons, even though it's a little surreal now in that West Block recreation or recreation they have now. It's a little strange at times, but you swear you're in the original House of Commons if you don't look too carefully. But it was fascinating today. But before I get into what I want to share with you, I want to remind you to visit our store. And please, right now, like this broadcast if you can, and give it the thumbs up. We're going to beat Trudeau censorship and the YouTube suppression that I am fighting day in and day out. The broadcast yesterday, they sat on that. Thanks for those of you who did watch, who watched over the weekend, and we're just skimming 25,000 subscribers. Let's go over that tonight. If you haven't subscribed and you're watching right now, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube does skim off subscribers. Is it something to do with the content? Maybe. I think so because I hear this from Clayton Morris at Redacted too. They take subscribers away for no reason. They might claim, "Oh, these are bots; these aren't real people," but they don't know that. And they do these things, of course, just to suppress conservative stations like the small C conservative stations, and people that are going after the real news out there, the real stories. So I encourage you to subscribe if you haven't. We got some great stuff in the store, by the way, and I just want to go through a few of those items because we're quite proud of them. We got we've got some great stickers here. And these are original stickers, and I really encourage you, to have a look at these. And I've got some right here in front of me that are not slides, and I'm going to show those to you before we here. This is called Cinema Verite, because we're there. You go. Don't you love the Guy Ball one? Yeah, he's one of. We all really love to dislike this. I'm going to say hate because there's no hate on this station. I don't want to hate anybody, but we certainly dislike their policies and we know what they're doing to the country, right? So, and we've also got these great t-shirts, no farmers, no food. Think, well, it's still legal. I was wearing that the other day. These are also available in hoodies. We've got the gray, black, and white. These mugs, get your mug today. When you wake up in the morning, whether you're at home or whether you're at work, this is the kind of statement you can make without anybody pointing their finger at you and say, hey, that's partisan politics. No, you're resolving to resist the Canada you believe in, the Canada you remember, the Canada you want to preserve. That's what is involved in the resolve to resist logo. And that's our motto here at Stand on Guard. And a lot of people tell me every day, and I heard this yesterday when I was attending church, somebody came up to me and said, I love the fact you say resolve to resist, because it really is inspirational. So I thank you for buying those. Have a look at them, and we'll get on to the subject here. So what happens in question period? Monday is a low-key day. Some of the MPs are still getting in. Trudeau's never there on Monday. Leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, was there. Unfortunately, a little too many questions about food banks and Nothing again about the World Health Organization pandemic agreement. I am again this week trying to get some answers out of the conservative opposition about this. Hopefully, we'll get something on Friday when I'm interviewing Michael Cooper. That's not his responsibility. That's not his category. That's not his jurisdiction. But he has said he can comment on it. I don't know what kind of comment I'm going to get, but at least it's more than I've gotten from anybody else up to this point. So I'm hoping we get at least a comment about what is going on with this pandemic agreement. Is it going to be signed automatically by the Trudeau government? Is the conservative official opposition going to say anything in response? Anything in defiance? Anything to try to stop this? I think these are questions we need answered. You people, you viewers are the ones telling me every day we need answers about and I agree with you. The question period's got to be more than just about carbon tax and about homelessness and about food banks. These are important questions. Yes, these are all indictments of a slipshod Trudeau government that has utterly failed in its management of this country, that has utterly failed to deliver for Canadians, unlike what they're telling you all the time. We're here to deliver for Canadians. We're rolling up our sleeves. We're getting to work. They're not doing any of that. They're just bolstering their egos. That's what this Trudeau government is so adept at doing. So what happened today in question that really got my ire up is a question from a Bloc MP, and I will be commenting throughout this exchange. This is incredible, and you have to see it to believe it.
The Honourable Member for Avignon-Limitis-Matane-Matapédia. Some think that Canada is too small to have an influence on climate change. On Thursday, Carbon Brief reminded everyone that since 1850, Canada is in the top 10 of countries that have contributed to climate change, and we're...
Excuse me? Carbon Brief? What incarnation is that? A comic book you're reading? Some sort of eco-terrorist tract? Canada is in the top 10. Yeah, sure we are. And we've been doing this since what, 1850? Can you tell me, any of you watching right now, who the hell was concerned about climate change in 1850? Who even brought it up? It wasn't an issue. It wasn't a subject. It wasn't a word. Nobody was talking about climate change in 1850. This woman is completely off the end. This is crazy. And to quote this stupid publication as some sort of gospel is absolutely absurd. Hey, let's continue.
We're certainly not the most populous of those 10 countries. That makes Canadians most responsible for global warming per capita. However, Canada continues to increase gas production, particularly with Trans Mountain. Increasing gas production is being responsible for climate change. When will the Liberals stop it? The Honourable Minister of Environment Change. Thank you. I'd like to thank my colleague for her question, and I'd like to announce her that the climate scorecard gave us a mark of 70% in 2024 for our fight against climate change, and our greenhouse gases emissions went down by over 50 million tons, Mr. Speaker. That's the equivalent of taking 15 million cars off our streets.
There he goes again. It's always about taking 15 million cars off our streets, which is, of course, exactly what Guilbeault, our Minister of Climate Change, wants to do. He wants to take the automobiles, the vehicles off the road, because he doesn't want you to have the freedom to drive anywhere. And that would be just wonderful if he could achieve that in addition to what else he's doing. But he actually sounds, compared to this Blockhead MP, Ms. Michaud, he actually sounds a little more rational than her because she's completely off the wall. He's off the wall. She's completely off the wall. And this is insanity.
So we're getting there. We need to keep working to fight climate change, and every sector of the economy, all regions need to contribute to this fight.
Oh, it gets better, folks. Just listen to her continue to hold forth with her preposterous theories.
The Honourable Member for Avignon-Limitis-Matane-Matapédia. I'll remind the minister that Canadians are per capita the most responsible for climate change since 1850, according to...
Since 1850. Christina Michaud, Blockhead MP. That's why they call them blockheads. As far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't even be sitting in the House of Commons. They're not a Federalist Party. They're there wasting your time and mine. And really, they're wasting their own time, except they're getting paid handsomely for doing so. They're getting a large salary and they're getting a pension for sticking around for more than 5 years. And they're getting a pretty good pension for being separatists in a federal legislature. Let's hear Christina Michaud continue to spout incredibly preposterous rubbish.
Carbon brief. Meanwhile, there's concern about the increase in infectious diseases linked to climate change in Canada. For example, a 1,000% increase in Lyme disease cases in Canada over 10 years. And public health is also worried that that mosquitoes that are responsible for Zika or malaria could eventually thrive in Canada.
Now we're blaming malaria on climate change and Lyme disease too. Where do these idiots come up with this nonsense? Well, of course, now, we're going to have an outbreak of malaria because of climate change.
Human cost. So when will Canada lower its oil and gas production?
The answer should be never. And go stop it, Blockhead. We're not going to lower our gas production because Quebec has hydroelectricity. Well, wait till we get to that. Yeah, Canada's really evil with their greenhouse gas emissions and their carbon footprint. By the way, let's have a look at this before we go any further. Here's Canada's greenhouse gas emissions. Here's our global carbon footprint. See that? We're dead last amongst all industrialized nations. 1.5%. And that's from a Government of Canada chart. This is not from the oil industry. No, this is not from the natural gas producers. This is not from the coal producers. This is from the Government of Canada. 1.5%. Read it and weep, blockheads. Let's keep going with her.
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind my honourable colleague that in recent years we've put in place clean gas standards, and the Conservatives voted against that. We'll continue with our price on carbon, something the Conservatives promised that they would do as well in the last election, but they've changed their mind since then. We have standards for zero-emission cars in Canada. By 2035, we want to see zero-emissions cars across Canada, and we will continue to protect Canadians from climate change.
So there he goes, reiterating the usual Liberal talking points about getting rid of all gasoline-operated cars by 2035. Yeah, get them off the road. Get them all off the road because we have to reduce that global carbon footprint. So he's actually warming up. He's thinking, this is Guilbeault, right? This is Disco Steve Guilbeault, that guy who's reputed to be the extra in Saturday Night Fever, the underage kid in the bar, right? So he's thinking here and saying, hey, the Bloc is showing me up. They sound more insane than I do. They sound more idiotic, more preposterous, more drug-induced than I do. So I'd better get up here and say, hey, we're going to get rid of gasoline cars by 2035. Take that, Blockhead. So he's starting to sound even more irrational. But get this. The Bloc is all about Quebec and nothing but Quebec. They're not interested in Canada, because I was scratching my head when she got up and started talking about Canada being a problem. Because all the Bloc wants to talk about, of course, is French language rights in Quebec. All they want to talk about is Quebec getting its fair share from the Confederation and then some so they can leave faster. And getting, of course, lots of money from Ottawa so they can pack it away when they declare their independence. But listen to what she goes on to say.
The Honourable Member for Avignon-Lamitis-Metapedia. Canadians are per capita historically the most responsible for climate change around the world, according to Carbon Brief. But it's not the same for Quebecers. While the average Canadian emits 21 tons of greenhouse gases per year, a Quebecer is responsible for 9.8. So that's less than half.
Isn't that lovely? Quebecers are so much cleaner than the rest of Canadians. Only 9.8. Wow. That's less than half, as she points out. Of course, Quebec is always just so much better. I wonder if it has anything to do with their vast supplies of hydroelectricity, which they don't have at the prairies. Alberta, Saskatchewan doesn't have a hydroelectricity. Quebec does. And Quebec can go on about how it doesn't like to use oil and gas. Guess how they continue to drive their cars, Christina Michaud. Oh, we forgot about that, didn't we? Quebecers are so righteous in the climate change religion. They're just an example for everybody. Except, I think most average Quebecers would tell this woman to go pound sand because they want to drive their cars, they want to heat their homes, and they're sick of the carbon tax impoverishing them. Quebecers are just like the rest of Canadians. So stop buying this blockhead propaganda. Quebecers are just like you and I. They want to live without the government regulating every aspect of their life.
Why? Because we don't create dirty oil in Quebec, but we're paying for dirty oil, like with Trans Mountain. So Ottawa is making us complicit in climate change. So why will the government not change its tone? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. I'd like to remind my honourable colleague that over half of the oil consumed in Quebec is Canadian. 360 million barrels of oil go to Quebec every day, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we do better than the rest of the country, but there's efforts to be made in Quebec as well. Nobody isn't affected by climate change. There's nobody who can do better than everyone else. We all need to work together to fight climate change.
Oh, yeah. We all have to work together to fight climate. It means we're all going to be impoverished together. The country's going to go down the tube together. We're going to have less and less money to buy essential goods. We're not going to be able to heat our homes. We're not going to be able to drive our cars. We're not going to be able to drive any cars at all because the electric vehicles are completely unreliable. The batteries wear out within a year, and it's impossible to get a replacement. They don't work in the winter any more than Trudeau and Guilbeault's heat pumps work in the winter. This is a disaster. This is an economic, a social disaster that the government of Canada, ruled by Trudeau Liberalcrats, are doing. Kleptocrats is what they are them. If you haven't heard that word recently or at all, it refers to the absolute worst, the base of society running society. It means the people with the least amount of intelligence, the least amount of grasp on reality are running our countries. And that's exactly what's happening under the globalist rule right now. So Guilbeault, Trudeau, and so many of these blockheads, what are they doing? What are they even doing in the House of Commons, these blockheads? I ask this all the time. They're working to separate. Their mantra is separation and treason. What are they doing in the House of Commons in a federal legislature? They should stay in Quebec and fight for separatism there. Don't come to Ottawa with it. Anyway, I say that every day, and I know it bothers a small percentage of people. In fact, I whispered that under my breath today in question period, and a guy turned around, and I thought he was going to attack me for saying that. Told me to shut up. I'm paraphrasing. He told me not to talk, actually. I said, boy, this guy's really indoctrinated into Trudeau's online Harms Act because he's telling people he's censoring people already. I just said, no, thank you. Oh, I don't listen to people who say crazy things. I don't listen to fanatics who are fighting for censorship or the eradication of my free speech. Anyway, I'll be back again tomorrow live from question period, and we'll see what happens, see if Trudeau's in the House. And I am going to fight all week to see if the Conservative opposition will bring up the WHO pandemic agreement. Let's find out where that agreement is. Let's find out if the Trudeau government is going to sign it or whether it's going to side with the United Kingdom government, which has decided not to sign it. We need to know that. Canadians need to know. You and I need to know. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, you've watched it all. And that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the Crayden resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the Crayden's Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon.
So we are in a very